Hi, this is Anthea again. I'd just like to talk a little bit about bipolar. I have been diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder. My mood is currently elevated, so I'm trying not to speak too fast. So sorry if I am speaking a bit fast, a bit fidgety, and I have written some notes so that I don't go off in gazillions of tangents. So in this little video I would like to just explain how it feels from me on the inside. May not be for everyone with bipolar, but some people may relate. I have social anxiety and I also have PTSD, which affects how it feels for me. If you imagine a photo taken and you can use it on your phone or software on the computer, your saturation slider. If you turn up your saturation a little bit to make the colours a bit brighter, that's what hypomania can feel like for me. That's actually what photographers actually do when they take scenery photos, for example. They actually do pump the colours up a little bit, that they look a bit more vibrant than real life. For mania, it's like pumping those colours up even further so they're a little bit over the top, and even changing the hue, so you're shifting the colour of the hue as well. For depression, I feel like you're taking that saturation slider and you're turning it down so it's grayscale, and then if it's particularly severe episode of depression, it's like it's also darkening the image, so it's colourless and it's quite dark, so it's lost all the colour. That's what it feels like for me, the mania versus the depression. Emotions, I feel my emotions more intensely when I'm manic. I have a form of PTSD where I tend to shut down emotions, especially emotion of anger. It's a trigger for me. And when I am manic, emotions feel incredibly intense and they all come flooding out all at once. And I feel, I can feel euphoric. I can access anger, which I suppress very strongly normally, and anger can feel either distressing for me or sometimes it can feel exciting and make me feel alive. Like one time when I accessed being able to feel angry, I drove around at high speed just feeling wonderful, and at the time I was thinking I was off my meds. And I was thinking psychiatrists can go and stick their meds up their ass, is what I felt about the meds. Because for me, if they over-medicate me, they suppress, which I could already do anyway. So when I'm depressed, I'm like a chronically shut down state, where my emotions are shut down. I feel shut down as a person, I feel numb, flat, or more likely. I may even be so numb that I can't feel the sadness anymore because the sadness is so intense. Hypomania feels to me a bit like being on a tropical island, enjoying the sunshine, ramping it up to full mania. It's like an electric storm, which can be kind of exciting and scary at the same time. Depression can feel, for me, like a cold, grey, drizzly day. Weeks of it on end, no sunshine. When I am hypomanic and manic, I can become very confident to the point of facing fears, and that can be to do with facing trauma triggers as well. Become adventurous, and that can include sexually as well. When I'm depressed, I can feel like a failure. Things become distorted. Like one time I felt like all these buildings were looking down on me, screaming failure at me. It's just like a distorted perception, being in either state of very high and very low. With mania, I have often been told that I glow, I look radiant, I look very well. That's before it all turns to shit, basically. When I'm very depressed, I have difficulty getting out of bed. I can't focus with either extreme. I can't focus when I'm fully manic or when I'm depressed, so I have trouble organising my brain at all. The manic state though is that because my brain is like racing. What the racing feels like is a little bit like if you've got a remote control, the old-fashioned TV ones, and you used to go fast forward rewind and it would flash through the pictures. That's a bit like how my brain would go. It would be flash from this idea to that idea to this image to that image. To do with my trauma as well. So I'd go back into the past, I'd go in fast to the future, all these images flashing around in my head. Sometimes when it becomes really bad, I can't organise to speak a coherent sentence, and that's where I find painting quite handy. This is just some of my various artworks. Just abstract though is the one I go to when my brain is really scrambled. This one up here, I don't know if you can see it, but it's symbolic, some of the links to all the different things that I find it too hard to find the words for, so that's where I find painting really helpful to process. When I am, when my mood is up, I feel like I have endless energy and I don't need sleep. And when I feel depressed, I feel like I'm stuck in the mud, stuck in a dark hole, feel helpless. I have been on the floor in a fetal position, curled up, just feeling so alone. When I am manic, the patterns that I see everything in patterns, and all the links, that becomes extreme because my mind is going extremely fast, and it's like I see like a fishing net full of all these connections, so I figure out things very quickly that other people can't figure out, but I also can figure out my trauma triggers and things like that, which you psychologists have found that very interesting, because I actually work out what's up with me or with myself, and they just find it quite interesting that I do work it out. It's just very complex. It takes quite a long time to work through that. So there is huge differences in libido. I have had times when my mood is up where I've been hypersexual, so like an extremely high libido, and then depressed, no libido at all, so I don't care about sex at all. When I'm manic, I can feel very spiritual, so I feel like the whole universe is all connected. Feels like I'm enveloped in love, and it feels like I'm just radiating love. And it feels like I go into these trances kind of things. I feel, it's hard to describe, but it does feel like a super spiritual time, and some people, myself included in the past, actually do become like hyper religious or hypo spiritual in mania. Depression I would describe as feeling like abandoned and alone. With speech patterns, I'm hopefully not sounding too disorganised for you right now, but what happens is I get pressure of speech, which means that I can talk very fast, and sometimes I get really loud, and I'm normally a very quiet person, and my needing to have a voice takes on this urgency and stress. This is how it's been described from others. and they can't interrupt me, and basically I drive them up the wall completely by non-stop talk. And whereas when I'm depressed, I don't really talk at all. Actually, from my trauma, actually can be mute at times. With in the elevated mood, I've had like no filter, so I have managed to entertain people and or offend people by what I've said or done. And yeah, depression I think can feel quite helpless. The crash from being into the high down into the depression feels absolutely awful. It's like a tsunami crashing. Yeah, that's what I can describe it being. In Mania, I listen to music quite often on a repetitive loop, partly because it does a bit of processing for me. I quite often will go walking and dance while I'm walking, just to try and get rid of some of the energy that I have inside. Mania can be euphoric, but also can be dysphoric. So the euphoric mania feels wonderful and like it's actually like an amazing, incredible experience. The dysphoric doesn't feel so good. It feels like something's out to kill you. And yeah, it does not feel good at all. And the dysphoric one can feel irritable and angry in not a good way. Sometimes anger can be a good release, but not if you're like not in control of it. No. My writing, I don't know if you can see here, is a bit messy, but it can become extremely messy when I'm manic, and I can't even read my own writing, no one else can read it. It's just because my mind is going too fast for me to write it down. So that's where my touch typing can come in really handy, because I can type really fast to sort of get out what's going through my head. What else? Yeah, when I'm manic, I do things that I normally wouldn't do. Lots of things. So it can feel like, from others looking in, like having a complete personality transplant. But I think it's more like just augmenting the core personality of the person, but just taking it to extremes. And then the depression is like diminishing that person. So it's like, it's still that person, but their thinking does change. There are distortions. And then there's also, it can be pain associated. Like I feel really hypersensitive, yet like I got a tattoo and hardly felt it. Yeah, other times, like when I'm struggling, like it really hurt to brush my teeth. So it hurt more for me to brush my teeth at one time in my life than to get the tattoo. So sometimes the muscles all tense up, which can be quite painful. Other times, I have quite a high threshold for pain. Like I gave birth and didn't need pain relief, and I actually felt quite euphoric giving birth, and I was manic. I was undiagnosed or misdiagnosed for a long time. I was misdiagnosed with treatment-resistant depression. I was put on antidepressants, which can make it all go worse. So when I'm manic, music sounds richer and more wonderful, and it sounds like it's speaking personally to me, and then I start getting all these weird delusions that making all these things happen that seem like more than a coincidence, and it's quite weird. So that's why it feels spiritual as well. Anyway, so hopefully that's just a little tiny. I also become very sensory seeking when I'm manic, so I might go and sniff 20 perfumes and buy perfume, whereas when I'm depressed I'm overwhelmed by smells. I don't want anything to do with smell. Yet when I'm manic, sometimes I'm very sensitive to things like smells as well. So it's all kind of sometimes contradictory. Oh yeah, I feel when my mood is up, I feel like a bird and I'm up high flying, and it's like I can see ahead. And that's why I told my psychiatrist I could see the future, and he told me, no, those are all coincidences, those are your patterns you can see. So I have to recognise that it's actually one of my indicators that that I enjoy the patterns I see when all these sort of meaningful coincidences, but I'm not actually got these special powers. So having all these special powers, believing that you have special powers, is a mania symptom. And mania can also get psychosis, and it can also happen severe depression. So you get delusions, which is believing things that aren't real, hallucinations, which are a bit like schizophrenia, but only during the mood episodes for someone with bipolar. Okay, so see if I've got battery power left and make a few more bits and pieces.